Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports' audit. Mr. Logical,
You're
Jersey, stand up. And I'm your boy 25. Tonight, we move on to the other South, the AFC South. Jacksonville, Tennessee, Indianapolis, and Houston. Who's going to win it? What are our takeaways? And then we're going to take you around the league because there's some rumors that are starting to heat up. But of course, first and foremost, we're going to get you started with Get It Off My Chest. But Mr. Logical, what is the word?
I got a positive one today. I just saw it earlier. I want to throw it out there. Sha'Carri Richardson won the 100-meter dash, the World Championships.
She did.
Yeah, 10.65. People counted her out with the weed at the Olympics, which is pretty ridiculous because I'm like, if you want to smoke weed and potentially make you slower, because it's not going to definitely make you faster, it's not going to give you a competitive advantage. But that's just the hypocrisy of drugs and doping and the IOC and all these other different organizations. I mean, you can see the movie Painkiller on Netflix or the TV show Painkiller on Netflix shows another level of hypocrisy. We're out in Utah with the whole opioid addiction. So we understand the hypocrisy of drugs and recreational, whatever that may be. But shout out for somebody because everyone was counting her out. And then a couple of, like about a month ago when she was at a qualifier and she took that wig off and she threw it in the track. She came out and won. I don't know how long a sprinter's, longevity lasts. I know Usain Bolt is kind of an anomaly. I don't know if she's going to be ready for the next Olympics, but I mean, right now she's world champion, so you can't take that away from her. So shout out to Sha'Carri Richardson, world champion, women's 100-meter dash, 10.65.
Yes.
Save women's sports.
Congratulations. So I hit you with some positivity, last time. I'm not gonna get negative. I'm not gonna get negative. But what I have here today is a call to action. And what I want is to defend America. Not in that January 6th kind of way. But MLS. You don't let this man come over here and win the League's Cup like that.
He didn't even stretch, though.
You don't let Messi come over here, and he probably already the best player in MLS history.
He didn't even stretch, though. I mean, D'Angelo Russell.
So, I look back, I admit I'm not going to sit up here and act like I'm Mr. MLS. I do keep up with it, Real Salt Lake all day, but I do remember David Beckham coming over. I remember all the fanfare, the craziness, bend it like Beckham. His wife was a Spice Girl, saying like she wasn't the prettiest one, but she was still a Spice Girl.
They made a movie big like Beckham and he wasn't even in it.
Yeah. And so, but he didn't come in like right away and take the Galaxy like to the top. He didn't take them to the Galaxy right away. You know what I mean? He had an impact, but you know what I mean? It was nothing like this. Thierry Henry came over, never made the MLS Cup final. So MLS, I am imploring you, do not let Inter Miami come back from last place and come back and win this damn league. Now, with that being said, call to action, right? 2026 World Cup is coming up. America, get on the soccer train. I know a lot of you don't like the 1-0 games, the 2-1 games, and all that stuff. But I promise you, it's exciting. It's passionate. Once the crowd gets into it and the music starts playing, the chanting's going on, it just takes
believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I mean, it's just it's just a world sport. Give it a shot.
It's a world sport. And we think about basketball, we think about the dream team and dominating and all that kind of stuff. Our women soccer team usually goes out there, kicks a lot of ass. It didn't work this
They
time
come back with
around.
some kind of trophy pretty much every other tournament.
Yeah, so now I'm putting the call out to America. The World Cup is coming here in 2026. Let's show something. Let's show the progress that we're making in soccer. And for two MLS teams, y'all need to figure it out. Is Messi LeBron James? Do you want him to be the scorer or do you want him to be the creator? You got to make a decision. Like you got to pick one. He can't be both. But
It's gonna be everything.
shout
That dude
out
is
to,
so much better.
yes, he is. Shout out to Inter Miami. Shout out to Messi. They came in, won the League's Cup, but I think even just as impressive as that is that it was an All American final. They beat Nashville in the final, so that made my heart happy. You know, but MLS, please don't let this dude walk into your league and walk away with a trophy in year one. That's all I ask.
Yo, Ibrahimovic came in his first game and scored probably the goal of the season. These guys they're just I don't know, just they're
It's
like
their sport.
we talked about it now. Be like they're just better. They're
Yeah,
just
they're
so
just
much
better.
better.
But I need these teams to just represent. You know, I know there's still other European players in the MLS and all that kind of stuff like that. But the point being is that MLS is an American league that I would like to see
Some
be
top
within
flight
the top
Americans play.
five. Yeah, be within a top five. Because like right now, I don't know if I can confidently say MLS is a top 10 soccer league in the world. You know what I
No, they're
mean?
not.
Like
Because
so
every
so
European country has one or two leagues.
yeah,
So
like
each one of those leagues between the
yeah,
Bundesliga, La Liga, the
Premier.
Premier League, then so you have like the Italian with Juventus, and then you have Spain in their league, and you have Germany in their league, you have England in their league, and France in their league. Yeah, and then
Yeah, I
they
don't I
have
don't even
leagues
know
that
if
you get
MLS.
relegated to.
Yeah, I don't even think MLS is better than like because I think the Premier League is the best, but I don't even think that MLS is on the level of like League One, which is the league right under there, and maybe not even League Two.
They
So
MLS is our league. I don't need
it's
you to be
our league,
better
yeah,
than Europe. I just need
right,
you to come out because the host nation is an automatic qualifier for the World Cup. It's like
right.
part of the package of getting to host the World Cup. Your country automatically gets in. So I don't know if it's going to be Canada, United States, and Mexico because I know they're playing games in
Uh
all
huh.
three countries. So I don't know if the United States gets it or no, all of North America gets a team. I'm pretty sure that all shake out
All
eventually,
I
but
know is there's got to be some aspiring running backs out there somewhere.
some fifth string running backs.
Yeah, come on. Hey, all the 5 stars that went to Alabama, a few of y'all ain't going to play. Get out here on the pitch.
You're a 6'5" wide receiver. You'd be a great goalie.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I wanted to get off my chest is that, like, look, MLS, just have some pride and don't let this dude run roughshod all over your league.
Oh, yeah, that's what he's gonna do.
Yeah, that's what he's going to do. So, on that
Like
note,
like Man on Fire, Creasy's artist death. And he's gonna paint his masterpiece of Mexico City.
if you've been watching TV, then just about everybody is picking the Jaguars to run roughshod all over the AFC South. So, Mr. Logical, you join in the frenzy?
I would say I'd say yes.
Okay.
Um, Mainly because I think they are of the four teams in the division, they're the only ones that aren't in the middle of a rebuild. They're in
Mhm.
the precipice, as you sort of speak, of their
Ooh.
their evolution because the 27-point comeback last year against the Chargers, and then playing. Granted, Mahomes was injured, playing Kansas City to a one possession game with odd turnovers, like the guy, the number 39, I forgot the running back. he had like an odd fumble when he was by himself. Like he caught the ball and he went to make a move and he just dropped the ball. So like it's like they had like a couple of odd turnovers like that. I would have blitzed Mahomes a little bit more after that ankle when he was hobbling, at least to the point where Andy Reid would have to consider putting Chad Henne in. But I think that kind of experience of the success of coming back from 27-0 or being down 27 points, your quarterback who hadn't thrown multiple picks in a game for months to throw four and then come back and throw the touchdowns and win the game and win in the dramatic fashion they did. And like I said, and then to go toe to toe with the eventual Super Bowl champions on the road at Arrowhead, which is like Guinness Book of World Records loudest football NFL football stadium.
Yeah,
In
they
that
even stole
environment,
Florida State's war chant.
hey, listen, they're the only ones that haven't, they're not gonna change their name, so you might as well keep it going until they make you change your name. But like I said, I like Jacksonville. I like Calvin Ridley coming back. I know he's missed 2 years because essentially he played a handful of games for the Falcons, and then he
Mhm.
took his mental health break, and then he was suspended for all of last season.
Yeah, I got it here.
So
His last game played was October 27th of 2021.
yeah, so that's 2 years. And people always say, "Oh, it's 2 years. He's going to be," but I'm like, he's still 2 years young, hasn't been tackled in 2 years. Like we're watching the preseason game right now on my iPad, Commanders versus Ravens, and Scary Terry McLaurin just got carted off had to walk off the field because his ankle got rolled. So, Calvin really doesn't have those injuries, doesn't
Mhm.
have that nagging stuff. So he got 2 years of heal. Hopefully, he healed mentally. Hopefully, he recovered. Because, like I said, I'm a Falcons fan. I always liked them. I thought the 1-2 punch of him and Julio they were going to be best 1-2 punch in the league. It didn't work out that way. Julio's injuries, soft tissue. Shout out Chris, take the shot. Uh, so Julio's injuries with Calvin Ridley. I like what Jacksonville did because we were talking offline because me and Mike talk about sports forever, and we were doing I was doing a college football comparison about how college football teams normally have a window. Certain teams are anomalies, like a lot of these teams down south in the SEC are anomalies, having 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of championship rounds and championship caliber teams. It's an anomaly because it's the ebbs and flows. He gives you some guys in and they leave. So with Jacksonville, the past couple of years, they've been getting free agents. They got Foye Luakon, they got Ingram last year. They drafted Trevor Lawrence a couple of years ago. They had the bad coaching hire with Urban Meyer, and then he tried to hire the strength coach, and then they got rid of the people that were going to cause them problems, and then said, "Let's make it happen." Started them from week one. I'm not like I said, I'm not a big proponent of starting rookies just because, but they had no other option. Number one pick overall, go with it. They drafted a defensive end last year, number one overall. So I think they built the team for a young quarterback, your blue chip star quarterback, to lead, and I think they
Right,
put all that together.
right.
So that's why I'm picking Jacksonville to win. It won't be crazy. They won't go like 13-4, but I think 11-6. They'll look like an 11-6 team. They won't wing it like sometimes we felt with the Minnesota Vikings and their 13-4 run last year.
Well, old saying, scared money don't make money. And I like Travis Etienne, out of Clemson. He came on last year, had a breakout year. I expect him to only get better from this point. Christian Kirk came in, from Arizona. And I remember early last year in the sports group, we were talking about, is he going to get 1,000 yards? And I was like, yo, he's that good. Like, he may not get 1,000 yards, but he's good enough to get it. You
And he got
know,
paid a lot of money, so that raised a lot of eyebrows because he got he
right.
got a he got a nice little bag.
Right. Ingram was a big major pickup for Jacksonville, and Jacksonville also has the other Josh Allen, who makes the real Josh Allen's life a living hell whenever they match up.
Booking defensive players.
But with that being said, I'm going with the Titans. And, so I know the problem is, this is the NFL. So, it's hard to stay in first. We've seen it. We talked about the NFC South before. Year to year, there was a lot of commotion with teams going from worst to first. So this is what I'll offer to get it started, to get the conversation started. So last year, Tennessee and Jacksonville came down to the last game of the season. You know, they were 6-6 with Tannehill as their quarterback, which is obviously by no means great or a reason to write home about anything. But they were still in the hunt for the division. They were still in the hunt in the playoffs. And then they went 1-5 without Tannehill because they had to play Malik Willis, who obviously wasn't ready yet. Josh Dobbs, they went and picked him up off the scrap heap. And he came in and played some admirable football, but in the end just wasn't good enough to get it done. So even with their flaws, they were right there knocking on the door of the playoffs last season. I think that their defensive line is one of the best in football. I would say top 4 to 5-ish in football. They got a little bit in the secondary, some injuries there last year as well. I like Mike Vrabel. He doesn't strike me. We talked about this offline as well. Mike Vrabel doesn't strike me as a rebuild coach. It's like, hey, coach, we need to get out there, win 4 or 5 games this year, get this high draft pick, and Mike Vrabel would look the owner and the GM dead in the face and say, fire me.
Absolutely.
That's not what I'm here to do. I will go out here and win 9 games, even if I got to go play quarterback. So I think Tennessee has that grit. And to borrow something that you said in our offline conversation, Tennessee plays football the right way, the way that you think of. They still have that smash mouth mentality, on top of having Derrick Henry, who is now having the foot issues, the plantar fasciitis and all that. And I can relate. They went and got Tajay Spears from Tulane to be that change of pace back. So I like that pickup. They went and got DeAndre Hopkins, coming in, who can hopefully, I said hopefully, unlock Treylon Burke, who was supposed to be the A.J. Brown replacement, and he wasn't the Doo-Doo Brown replacement. So,
his first practice didn't look good for him because he just were.
Yeah, he almost I felt like he almost died that day.
It was. I think it just kind of caught him off guard. You need 2 gallons of water before practice starts. Kind of like you need to eat like a sandwich with some ham, no cheese. You need to. You might need to do a little bit more, or he might have just been sick and say, I'm gonna tough it out. But yeah, it looked odd because you sent AJ Brown away, and then this guy essentially they said it. I remember they said it at the draft when the trade was made, and then they drafted him. They were like, who his comparison is? AJ Brown. It was like you just traded, and it was just like, yeah.
Well, I think what was crazy about it to me was that. And I know, college obviously doesn't always directly translate over to the NFL, but it's not like you went and got a receiver from a passing school. He went to Arkansas. So, you know what I mean? Go get an Ohio State wide receiver.
Calvin Johnson went to Georgia Tech.
Hey, Calvin Johnson. They
were running a quadruple option. They threw 6 passes a game. All of them went to him.
Calvin Johnson was also the same size as Michael Jordan. So it's like throw it up and catch this oop.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense when you think about the size of some of these human beings. Like Derrick Henry is Calvin Johnson size. Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. He had 4,000 yards rushing. His Derrick Henry's senior year stats. He had 4,000 yards rushing. He had multiple games where he ran for over 400 yards.
Yeah, so
doesn't make any sense. So you're picking Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm picking Tennessee because you got Chris out here taking his shots off of the soft tissue. I need somebody to take a shot for me because all I'm gonna say is check the schedule. Because when I look at this schedule for Jacksonville, let me look at my paper right here. So week 2, they get the measuring stick right out the way. Kansas City, come on down. So, we're going to see what they learned from that playoff game last year and how they stack up against healthy Patrick Mahomes for the whole game. But they get a little easy after that up until this stretch from week 7 through week 13, which is going to tell the tale of their season because they go to the House of Horrors, also known as the Superdome. You know,
Caesar Superdome.
they go
They
to
don't want the players gambling. That's
they
cool. All right,
go
my bad.
to they go to Ketchup World and go play the Steelers. You know, San Francisco, a
They got
matchup
San
with
Francisco at home.
a matchup with Tennessee. They get a little breather with a road game at Houston, but still a division road game. And then they get the Bengals. So that's going to be the stretch right there that determines this division, I think. You know, because when I look at everybody else in the division scheduling, you know, I'm going to get to it. But as I look at everybody else's schedule, Jacksonville is the team that finished in first place last year. So they're the team that gets this schedule.
Yeah.
And this is why the NFL, I mentioned it's so hard to stay on top because you want to do good, your reward is you go to play everybody that's good.
Yeah.
And you're gonna
And,
and they lump them in together.
and that's why the worst to first aspect of the NFL is like we've had years and the last few years people had complaints about the NFL, but I think their model of selling you an entertainment, an entertaining product is head and shoulders above every other league in my opinion. I think the NBA does a poor job of showcasing all their talent. Like for instance, I you should definitely have Orlando versus Golden State on TV just to get both coasts to see both teams, and then you'll have people watching the game because of Golden State and their recent history, and then you have this young team in Orlando playing, or Houston versus the Lakers. That game
Yeah, I
has
was
to
gonna
be on
say if I
TV.
gotta
You
suffer
have to
watching the
make
Knicks
these.
all year.
You gotta put it together. You have to put these games together to where people can start being fans of Jalen Green. People can start being, get Portland against,
And
Portland when they come and play the Knicks, if Dame Lillard's on the team or not, but get people Scoot Henderson against Jalen Brunson.
you
Whereas
show
the
everybody.
NFL makes that happen. They get you Patrick Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence week
Yeah,
two.
and most of all, you're showing everybody there is an alternative. You don't have to watch Julius Randle.
Yo, he's gonna find us one day. Us meaning you. So like I like your pick. Once again, I can agree with it to a point, but I just figure that I'm gonna just take the
I mean,
trajectory of
Jacksonville is most
Jacksonville.
likely. Yeah, Jacksonville's most likely. I just think that I mean, obviously for Tennessee to win the division, a lot of things have to come together, you know, and that
The
offensive line of theirs, if you could call it that, is another issue.
Yeah, if you did a parlay where you picked all 8 division winners and then the wild cards, so that's 14. The odds are crazy because of so many different variables. It's you're so If you think about Jacksonville, Tennessee, we're up to the last game. If Dallas doesn't blow a random game in the middle of the year, they're fighting for first place. Jalen
If they
Hurts
beat
rests for
Sam
two
Howell
weeks.
starting his first game.
You know, they had Jalen Hurts resting for 2 weeks when they wanted to rest him because he got injured. So they had to rest him earlier than expected in Philly. So Philly could
Uh-huh.
have put themselves in a position their last 3 weeks where they lost the number one seed.
Yeah.
So that kind of selection of Tennessee versus Jacksonville, it's a toss up. Like I said, a parlay bet, if you hit all 14, it'll probably pay you like $80,000 off a $12 bet. Like it'll be something crazy like that. But I mean, if we think about the two teams rebuilding, and this is that whole worst to first. So the
Mm-hmm.
Colts, Texans, one of them's gonna be third, one of them's gonna be fourth. Well, it depends on how bad you are. I think Indy will probably be a little better because they have a steady running game, they have a solid offensive line. If they keep Jonathan Taylor, we'll talk about that in the next segment. And you have this young quarterback, check it down, Mo Ali Cox. I think they have another tight end. So you
Mm-hmm.
keep it simple with your tight end playmakers. As Steichen can really, if they can really make this rookie coach and rookie quarterback marriage work, because that's the key. I know Doug Peterson, when he came in, it was Lawrence's second year, but you can basically just wash that first year because it was so discombobulated with Urban Meyer that first year with Peterson and uh, Trevor Lawrence, you could consider that his rookie campaign where he actually
Mm-hmm.
got real tutelage, real coaching, not a coach that literally doesn't travel back to to the team facility with
After
you, but he goes
partying
to
in the
some
bar.
bar.
Yeah.
He went to the bar. He didn't come back with the team. He left. The team left to go to Jacksonville, and he stayed and went to the
Was it
bar.
his
Like that's how
bar?
it was his.
I think it was
He had
his
part
bar, right?
ownership or something. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he in there feeling on girls like it's not HD cameras in everybody's pocket. But that's the kind of like arrogance that you had to
Well,
deal
I
with.
mean, as a
You
college
didn't get in
coach,
those problems
it
last year.
was a college coach, especially the type that had the success that he had. You pretty much run every town you go into.
And everyone's like, "Yep, got that." Boop.
But Indianapolis, so here's a question. I know you're not the biggest Anthony Richardson guy, you know, but can Anthony Richardson at least be what Matt Ryan was last year?
I, it's not like I'm not an Anthony Richardson guy. It's just that at Florida, where he probably had upper echelon college football talent, like high school players coming in Florida, state of Florida.
And
Like I said,
speed, if nothing else.
Florida, California, Texas, 1, 2, 3 is interchangeable. You can mix in Georgia. I think they're starting to get a little run, but
Yeah, Louisiana.
historically,
Yeah.
historically, it's Florida, Georgia, California. That's where your high school, upper echelon talent comes from. He's there, and the highlight package was incredible. I remember someone posted it in the group like a couple months before the draft, and I was like, just this highlight tape alone is going to get him drafted higher than he probably should be. Luckily, he went to an organization that's not completely dysfunctional. I'm not a big fan of Jim Irsay. I feel like he's Jerry Jones 2.0. I don't really know too many owners' names and faces and histories, whether it be a criminal history, whether it be just kind of run ins, or just the fact that he wanted to pay for some killer whale to go across the country. I just think that your owner shouldn't be someone you talk about as much as the players.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, and I know he was big in a lot of the like negotiations with the COVID and strikes and the CBA. And he's one of those guys that's just like he's out front, but sometimes you might need to play the back, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do that. They start out 0-2 or 0-3. People start sticking a microphone in his face.
Well,
He's going to say X, Y, and Z. Like whatever he said about, I mean, he said something about Carson Wentz.
Well, he was one of the ringleaders that was trying to get Daniel Snyder out of there. So, like, he's all right with me. But as I look at this, the reason why I asked that question about can Anthony Richardson be at least what Matt Ryan was is because I'm looking at this, and last year the Colts between Matt Ryan and Sam Ellinger, and I'm sure there was a third quarterback that I'm forgetting right now, but between them, they were 20th and receiving yards and 24th in touchdown receptions. So, there's only one way to go, and that's up. They still got Michael Pittman. I think Paris Campbell might be a big loss just to have somebody besides Pittman for the defense to worry about. So
Yeah.
that's where Jonathan Taylor comes in. If you can get Jonathan Taylor from 2 years ago, the Colts might could get to 7-10, or they might could get to that where they're in the division hunt the last 2 weeks of the season because Jacksonville has a tough schedule and Tennessee
But
is
that's
rebuilding.
ask
But that's asking.
that's asking a lot. That's asking a
It
lot for a
definitely is, but we've
team
seen it happen
because
before. We just had a conversation the other day about
rookie head
rookie Matt
coach, rookie
Ryan and
quarterbacks.
Flacco. About how they came into the league and changed how we view rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, but that was also carried the two like 14 years ago.
Mm-hmm. It
15,
was.
15. It was a while. And when you think about those teams, Atlanta was playing like a last place schedule because they were still kind of overcoming the Michael Vick scandal. And then Flacco had Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. I think I probably could have
Mhm.
gone out there, got you 2,000 yards. I would have been throwing nothing but screen
Maybe.
passes and passes to tight ends, but nothing deeper than 25 yards. I'm gonna hit you screen and these slants all day. I
Yeah.
got you. So Flacco was fortunate to come in that situation, but it's been a lot of cases where guys were rookies. I mean, like Lamar sat behind Flacco for a while. So I
Well, I
get
mean,
the optimism, and I
This
don't
guy getting Cam
mean
Newton
Cam Newton
comparisons.
comparisons, yes.
Yeah.
And Cam Newton came out, had 800 passing yards his first couple of games, and then end up with like a career pass percentage of like 58, 59%.
Yeah.
And
They still
that
weren't
was one
winning.
of
Yeah.
Richardson's knocks. And on top of that, I don't want my top 5 quarterback out here trying to run the ball all the time either. Because you put a red jersey on him in practice so he doesn't get hit. But people keep, not people, but like some of these pundits I hear talk about, oh, if you can utilize his athleticism, I don't want to. I don't want him putting his shoulder into linebackers and DBs. If you have to scramble, cool. Like if you can Aaron Rodgers it, because Aaron will stand back there for a little bit and then scramble and get you 8 yards and stick the ball out like that, try to get the first down, but he's not gonna die for it.
Yeah, is
You just
Anthony
had
Richardson going to slide, or like
he
is
he
he too
better
big to slide?
he's got I bet he got a text message from Andrew Luck like, listen, don't try to run that guy over at the one. Just go out of bounds and give it to Jonathan Taylor on the next play.
Yeah,
If it's 4th and 1 or if it's 4th down, then you gotta do what you gotta do.
or I
But if it's
guess Zach
first down,
Moss.
just go ahead and step to the side and let somebody else, lug that rock over the goal line.
Well, looking
But
at their
somebody's got to be terrible. Like, I mean, it's a lot of,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
pretty
yeah, yeah.
optimistic. One of these teams is going to win 4 games.
Well, I like the Texans, but we'll get to them in a second. But like looking at the Colts schedule, it's actually not that bad considering like the rookie quarterback, the questions about Jonathan Taylor, is Zach Moss going to have to carry the load because like their biggest stretch is late in the season. I got weeks 13 through 15 picked out because they go to Tennessee, they go to Cincinnati, and then they come home for Pittsburgh. So that's
You
going to
don't
be a
think they
tough
could
stretch.
be 2-6 after the first 8 weeks?
I think they could, but I don't think that it's like Murderer's Row where you're just looking at the schedule going, holy crap. I don't think you're having that reaction to that part of the schedule. Like
No prime,
you
no
might
prime time games.
like you might feel that way just because you know that the Colts are a bad team. But I don't look at the teams that they're playing against and the way that it sets up like consecutive games. I don't look at that part of the schedule and go, "Ooh, this isn't manageable at all." So
They got 4 division games in the first 8 weeks, so that's gonna be
right,
tough.
right. But outside of Jacksonville, like coming into the season, like none of
Baltimore and the
those
Rams.
teams have. Get out of here with the Rams. I'm not worried about them.
I'd be worried about them in the fact that
I mean, they
they're
do
probably
have
gonna
Aaron
lean,
Donald.
they're gonna lean heavily on just pressure up the middle.
Yeah,
Like, because if you watch, I saw a play earlier with Sam Howell. They had a blitzer off the edge, and he was able to kind of step up in the pocket. The running back picked up the blitz and got another step, and then he rolled out and he had his eyes down the field to throw a pass. But this is his second year; he's a little bit more polished.
right,
A lot of the young quarterbacks, they get that blitzer in, and they want to avoid it altogether and run.
right, right,
How often does he take you know, does he take 4, 5, 6 hits in that
right.
game where he could have just kind of rolled and then dumped it off
And
or
that's where that
rolled? And
and
that's
that's
where
where
the
that game
maturity and
against
the
Dallas
time.
might have helped because he had Micah Parsons coming after him. Sam Howell. He had
Yeah,
Micah Parsons coming after him. He had Van Der Esch and some other guys. So like he got it was one game, but he felt it, at a
yeah.
point or another. Whereas Anthony Richardson is all going to be a whole new experience,
It's
and
gonna be
whoever he
new.
plays before the Rams ain't gonna be Aaron Donald.
It's gonna be the Baltimore Ravens.
But
So
something
they
that I
got
feel,
like 2 guys that are the caliber at their position as
but
Aaron
hey,
Donald.
I mean, NFL is one of those sports that just doesn't make sense a lot of times. You go out here with your money thinking that you got a sure thing, and then the Colts go beat Kansas City last year. You know what I
That
mean?
was
And then you,
and they made him look bad. Normally those kind of games are shootouts where
yeah,
it's just like the other quarterback is just hot and
they
you
led
know
Philly for about 57 minutes last year, even with Jeff Saturday as the coach, and they lost it in the last minute. So I mean, these things
they had
happen.
a 33-point lead on Minnesota.
They had a 33-point lead on Minnesota. Yeah, these
No
things
one
happen.
We don't talk about that enough. We don't
But
talk about that
we don't. We
enough
don't. But you know
as
what's
a
even
as a as a
crazier?
as a 24/7 sports news cycle. Even Kirk Cousins said in the quarterback, he was upset to be invited to NFL honors late. He was like, we got a rookie coach. We went 13-4. We had the greatest comeback in NFL history. And it's like, how come we aren't already there? Like Justin Jefferson was there for the catch.
I mean, I call it the second greatest, but that's just me being 2.5, I guess. Second greatest comeback ever.
We're not gonna talk about any other comebacks of any.
No, not that one. Not
We
that
ain't
one.
talking about that one either.
No, I'm not talking about that one. I'm not talking about that one. No, I'm talking about Buffalo and Houston.
On the 32 points.
That was the AFC Championship game with a backup quarterback. So I'm going with that one as the best comeback ever. But 2-5 moment. But anyway, with all that positivity that we just said about the Colts, you wouldn't even think they got outscored by 138 points last year. So defense needs some work too, So that's where, like I said, I like the Texans because at least with the Texans
to finish third.
Yeah, because at least when I look at the Texans, I see the talent. So like when I look at the Colts, they have Pittman, they have Ali Cox, they have Leonard on defense, and then there's depending on what Jonathan Taylor's status is, they don't have a lot of much else that stands out to me. I like Isaiah Rodgers.
Gap.
It's a gap. But when I look at Houston, they got Stingley back there in the defensive back, Derek Stingley. They got Jimmy Ward came along with D'Amico Ryans. So if nothing else, the secondary will be tight. They still got Cushman. They have on offense, we talked about John Mechie. I think that Xavier Hutchinson is going to be one of the steals of the draft. They had Dameon Pierce, who before he got injured last year was the leading
top rookie rusher. Yeah,
right. He was the leading Russian rookie. So and just like the Colts had these close calls, I remember the Texans being 2 yards away from knocking off Dallas last year.
Yeah, but they ran out they were running out the two quarterback system like it was college, like they were.
But now they don't have to.
It was.
But now they don't have to. But now
and then the play call was poor.
Yeah, the play call was definitely poor. You know what I mean? And the reason that they were in this position to begin with to get this quarterback is because Lovie Smith decided to win the game.
you can't tell an old man. Look, as I'm getting older
with that immaculate beard.
Like as I'm getting older, I'm starting to hear stuff and people say stuff to me, and it's like, nah. I don't really react to all of it. I just think to myself, it's like, do I care about this? Yeah, I hear what you're saying. We're in this room, we're having this conversation, but yeah, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. So you got to just fire me. You got to be mad at me. You got to fire me. Whatever you got to do, but I'm not doing that thing you just said for me to do. I'm like,
I hit him with the Vince McMahon. Saying no cases though, but I hit him with the Vince McMahon. I'd be like, I'll take it under advisement, But looking at the Texans schedule here, you know what I mean? Weeks 2 and 3, Indy and Jacksonville, so they get acclimated to the division real quick. So that'll be nice to see how they respond to the division games, how CJ Stroud handles that. But I think their schedule, just like I said about the Colts, it sets up nice for the most part for a young team until you get to week 12. And then you go Jacksonville, Denver, at Tennessee, Cleveland, and Tennessee again. But even that's not necessarily murderer's row or the hit squad. If CJ Stroud can be decent, they can sneak a game or two in there, get the 5 wins or something along those lines. D'Amico Ryans will have the defense playing. Whereas with Steichen, maybe you see a higher upside because he has the offensive background, and not only an offensive background, he was Justin Herbert's offensive coordinator. He works with Phillip Rivers, Jalen Hurts. So he is a proven commodity as far as getting young quarterbacks, and I guess the old dog too, getting the quarterbacks.
He has a solid track record.
But obviously that's probably going to take a season or two to get Richardson up to that point. But he at least has that track record. Whereas with D'Amico Ryans, it's always weird when the defensive coach takes over. We talked about Todd Bowles. It's always weird when the defensive coach takes over because who is he going to hire as his offensive staff? What is his emphasis on offense going to be? Or is he just going to straight up try to win every game 9-6 because that's his calling card? So
we want slants and drag routes.
Yeah, so that's going to be my knock for them. But like, but I picked Tennessee to win the division. So, of course, to start off, it ain't going to start off too well. They might go 0-2 because they're going to go to the House of Horrors and then they're going to play the Chargers. So the good news is that the Chargers usually just they play down to their competition, if you will, especially when they're not at
They
home.
play very weird.
They do, but then they
It's
go.
very
But after the Chargers, they go to Cleveland and come back home for Cincinnati. So right out the gate, we're gonna find out if I'm off about the Titans or if there's a possibility that they could do something.
they very well could be.
It could be 0-4.
I don't know about Cleveland because I'm not sure if I don't know where the disconnect with Deshaun Watson when he came back last season after suspension. He just looked like he was never a top quarterback or viewed as such. He just looked like out of place. He looked like a rookie.
Well, going back to your point, we talked
I know he
about.
missed a lot of time, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he
That's what I
looked
was gonna
out of
say.
place. Like his handoffs, like it just didn't look fluid
Well, that's
in
what
a
I was
lot of
saying.
his
Like,
games.
you brought up Calvin Ridley earlier, like the games that he missed. So when I was thinking about it as you were saying it, what came into my mind was like receiver is probably one of the positions that would have like the least issues coming back from because as a quarterback, a lot of it's about timing. So, you got to knock the rust off, even the handoffs, like you mentioned, like just getting back into the feel of the game. Is the running back, you have to be an extra blocker as well. So, you have to get back into the physicality. You know what I mean? I don't know how many wide receivers are great blockers, but you don't forget how to run a route.
Terrell
Like
Owens.
yeah, I mean, yeah, Terrell. Yeah, Randy Moss wasn't blocking nobody, but you don't forget how to run a route. Like you
So
don't
you got to
necessarily
work on the timing to knock the
right,
quarterbacks right
right.
out anyway. So like you're working with someone who's working through
But
their own
Ridley's
kingdom.
coming back to a good quarterback. Trevor Lawrence. Whereas Deshaun Watson, he had Amari Cooper, who has flashes of being a great receiver, but it's just too inconsistent for my liking. And then on the other side, he had Donovan Peoples Jones, who had sort of a breakout year last year. But, like the thing that helped Deshaun Watson come along was that they had Nick Chubb, so having that running game is always going to make it a little bit easier. So this year, I expect him to play a little bit better. But when
So
I'm looking at,
you said that you got them. So based off of the Deshaun Watson
no, I'm picking Tennessee to
reverse,
win it, but I'm just saying, I'm to
they
win
could be
that game.
1-3,
They
1 and
could be
3.
1-3. I'm gonna say 2-2. I think they'll clip one of New Orleans or LA. Probably not New Orleans just because of where it is. It's hard to beat them at that place. How many Monday night games have you seen where
They
you're,
always put the Falcons and Saints on Monday night, and it's always at the damn Superdome.
dude?
And I'm always disappointed that I
If
stayed up
you,
until midnight to
hey,
watch this
if the
game, and I had to
Saints
go to work at 6 in the morning.
if the Saints are good enough to reach a conference title game, and they were in the AFC, and Patrick Mahomes had to go to the House of Horrors, I'm picking the Saints. That's how that place is. Like, weird
It's a little
things and
different.
voodoo and all that stuff just happens in that place.
It's a little different.
So yeah, it's going to be hard to win there. But I think that they might play Cincinnati early enough. I know Burrow was a little banged up, earlier, so he might need a few weeks to get back into gear. They might catch Cincinnati at the right time. So 2-2 is possible. And then, like I said, I don't know what Justin Herbert and Kellen Moore, I don't know how that dynamic is going to work, or if they're still
Throw
going to
it
try to.
deep. Throw it deep. 4th and 1. Throw it deep. Throw it hard.
Yeah, yeah. So so
5
so
wide.
so like yeah. So I'm gonna pick the Titans. They had the best run defense in the league last year. You know, and it what made me think about Tennessee, and I hate to do it, but a lot of times as we talk about sports, and I mean we as like society, we tend to break things down to one game or two. And so the first thing that popped into my head when I was looking at this division was the Sunday night game against Kansas City last year. The Malik Willis game where He didn't even throw for 60 yards or something, and
He threw
Mahomes
like
threw it
six. He had,
61 times.
I think he had 16 pass attempts
Yeah,
to Mahomes 61. It was like the most, like the biggest disparity between pass attempts of two starting quarterbacks is like 45 passes.
yeah. And
And
they were
the
within a play of winning that game.
and
You know, and
Mahomes
and,
had to like play his heart out to win that game.
and that's what I'm
Like he
saying. So
stopped
so
throwing the
so
ball in the last drive.
so that's why when I was looking at this, like I said, all the smart money is on Jacksonville. They're the best team. They have the most talent. They won the division last year, so you can't do the young, inexperienced thing anymore. They know they can do it now. But Tennessee, I think, has ingredients. They just needed their quarterback to be healthy. And I'm not the biggest Tannehill fan to begin with. But there's something about the IQ. We talked about it with Jimmy G the other day. There's just something about old reliable. He's
Yeah,
not gonna panic.
the
You know, he's
Volvo.
he's not gonna give a game away. I mean, he'll have a bad game, but he's not gonna give the game away on average. So I just feel
He'll throw
that
it
if
away if it's a pressure game. Though, if it's a one
yeah,
possession
he
game,
may.
but in the fourth quarter, he will throw it to the other team at least
Yeah,
once.
and he will do that from time to time. Every quarterback does, except for
That's
like
like
except
I
for
was
Aaron
watching.
Rodgers, I guess.
I was watching. I don't know if it was First Thing
Well, I guess
First
he does it too.
or Colin Cowherd. I think it might have been First Thing First. And what he said was like it made sense. And this is what we've been talking about. Some teams are in the position of where they might implode due to early failures or lack of early success. I won't say failures, but lack of early success. Looking at their schedule, they go 0 and 4 or 1 and 3, and they don't look good in that 1 and 3. They say they're 0 and 2 going into Cleveland, and Deshaun Watson just still doesn't have his rhythm back, and it's a sloppy game, and they win it 17-13. And then they come out and get mollywopped by Cincinnati the following week. You have two young quarterbacks that were drafted in the last two drafts. Tannehill has been on a chopping block essentially for the
Hmm.
last couple of seasons. Hence
Yeah, I'm
why,
surprised he's still there.
hence why they drafted Malik Willis and then Will Levis. Which once again, like it doesn't make any sense to have two essentially projected first round picks that you got later. I think Will Levis was second round pick, and Malik Willis ended up slipping to the third round, I
Yeah.
believe,
Uh-huh.
where they're both projected to be first round picks on your roster with the starting quarterback that you're paying starting quarterback money to, somewhere like 32, 34 million, something like that. That you keep hinting at, or at least publicly, rumor has it, we'll talk about rumors next, that, he's on his way out. So I just feel like, I know Vrabel he's not a disciple of Bill Belichick because he played for me, didn't coach under him, but is someone going to influence a change being made? And then what do you do with Tannehill? Do you just give him the clipboard? Do you move up both young guys and put Tannehill third? How does that impact the locker room when
Well,
you're
I was
only
going to say
a quarter of your way into the season?
they go 1 and 3, 1 and 4, like we're talking about. Somebody in that building is going to say, "Hey, we just picked up Spears. We were talking about trading Derrick Henry before the draft. Let's get a start on next year." So I mean, that very well could happen. Still like Henry could be moved. Maybe not. The only thing that would keep Henry there, I think, is just because they brought DeAndre Hopkins in.
But that's the thing. DeAndre Hopkins, it's probably, I think Tennessee probably was the only team that was willing to give him that money.
Hmm.
But the same trepidation I'm having with the Tannehill relationship with the Titans, I'm not sure. I don't know why DeAndre Hopkins isn't thinking that. Like, but when they called you, like, listen, are y'all gonna keep this quarterback? Because he remembers those years in Houston when Tom Savage and who was the other guy, T.J. Yates and Matt
Hmm.
Schaub, and I think he's caught like touchdown passes from.
From
I
like
think I
the
saw
worst slate of receivers
like
of any star player.
11 different quarterbacks have thrown touchdowns or some number like that, some outrageous number. Um, and I'm pretty sure you would want more consistency from the quarterback position.
And
But
who
but
knows?
if he's healthy and there's play design for him, then they could finish the stretch 3-1 because we don't know what New Orleans is going to be. We just feel like someone has to be good at NFC South, and of those four teams, New Orleans has the biggest home field advantage. And if they get 8 or 9 home games, then that can potentially give
Yeah,
them
they just
the
picked up Kareem Hunt too. So, so there's that. Like, there's so much for the whole Kamara suspended thing, but but both of us picked the Falcons to win that division. So, and it's because the reason I can't speak for you. Part of the reason why I picked the Falcons is because I'm tired of trying to believe in Derek Carr. Like, I'm tired of trying to like see that he has talent and he can do this and he can do that, and then he just doesn't do it. So
yeah. But like that's the thing. I don't think anybody outside of the Raiders organization, I mean, inside the Raiders organization, really believed in him with enough conviction. The way, I mean, if you think about
but
some of these
also their
teams,
coach
like
too.
the
Like
way the
is the,
Vikings believe in Kirk Cousins,
right,
like that level of you are our guy.
right.
I wish it translated to more wins for Kirk because I like him. I like him a lot as a player. Derek Carr probably has that. It's exactly he's in the same boat as Tannehill, where they paid him 6 cents. He's already getting his money, but was he paid because they didn't want to go out and look for another one? Did you put the engagement ring on because you're like, you know what? I don't want to go back out in the dating pool. I just want to stay here with what I have. Which I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you go out and you literally get two more people
Well,
to
well,
do his job in back-to-back drafts when you could have probably picked up a guy like Brian Hoyer.
well,
You could have picked up you could have picked up a steady backup versus drafting the guy's replacement. We saw how that relationship worked in Green Bay. Yeah, it worked out with the Favre, that Aaron Rodgers piece, but that was a little turmoil at the end. And then
Mhm.
I think I talked about this before. I'm not sure if Malik Willis is Vrabel's guy, hence why now we have Will Levis, who looks a lot more like a more bulked out version of Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah,
So
prototypical style. Yeah.
yeah, and just I just think that that's the potential for implosion. That you have a wide receiver that just showed up getting this money who wants consistency. Is he gonna get? He's gonna run a post route, and Malik Willis isn't gonna see it because he doesn't. He might not know. Like, yo, this is open, and then they're gonna put Will Levis in. Yo, I'm open, and he doesn't get the ball, and he's like, y'all got me running these 30-yard routes, and the
Oh no,
dude's not
Will
looking my
Levis will
way.
throw
He's
it.
throw it to somebody on Indianapolis.
He might do that, but he'll throw the ball. But like, to your Kirk Cousins point, Kirk Cousins is like the perfect example of why I hate quarterback wins as a stat. Because too many times I've seen Kirk Cousins, put up 30 points or lead Minnesota somewhere or just whatever, and the defense gives up something, and then we say Kirk Cousins can't win the big game, or
Can't win in
like like
prime time.
like Kirk Cousins is the new Tony Romo, except for he's had more success than Tony Romo.
What was that? The was it the Broncos game, and the score was like
Yeah, 52
50
to
to
48.
48, and you
And
were
and
like,
Tony
Romo
Romo threw
can't
a
win the
pick
big
with
one.
2 minutes. He threw a pick right after the 2-minute warning. And everybody said, see, he can't win the big game. And Peyton Manning went on to break the record for touchdown passes in a season, make the Super Bowl. And it's like he put up 48 points. Like,
You could have kept it to 47. They win.
yes,
If you
like,
could have kept them to 6 touchdowns and 2 field goals,
whereas on the other hand, you
that's
look at
8 possessions. 8 possessions. If you could have stopped them from scoring on 8 times in one game, you win.
whereas on the other hand, you look at like Tim Tebow and Vince Young, and Tim Tebow was winning games, completing 2 passes.
Oh,
He
2 for 8. Yeah, I remember that
there
game.
was a game against Denver where they were in over, or I'm sorry, against Chicago. They were in overtime. Marion Barber fumbled at midfield, and Tebow gets the ball. They don't even get a first down. And then, the kicker comes in and kicks like a 63-yard field goal.
In Mile
And
High.
Denver wins, and he gets credit for that win as if this wasn't the same team that was playing when Kyle Orton was the quarterback. And then Vince Young, was out here winning games like 16-13, and people were saying like, "Yo, he just wins wherever he goes." Like, so this is why a quarterback wins. I don't subscribe to that. Like, there are outliers, like you brought up Jimmy G the other night.
Jimmy G's in
Like
the top
like
5 or
like
6 all time at like 70% win percentage.
and it's
But
crazy. But
my thing with
because
Jimmy G is his impact to San Francisco, not just quarterback wins. I think like
right, right, right,
I feel
right.
the same way with you. It's like I don't believe in quarterback wins. It's like, oh, because he's there, they are winning. It's the fact that it's like because you have him, you have a better chance of winning. Like he's not throwing you to victory. He's just keeping you from losing games, which is also like, I mean, I know it
That's
sounds like
valuable,
I'm
obviously.
splitting the
Yeah.
hairs, but he won't throw that late interception week after week, playoff
Yeah,
run
he'll
after
just
playoff
he'll just
run.
overthrow the throw with the Super Bowl on the
He'll
line.
overthrow one throw in a Super Bowl, but if you would have just learned your lesson from the February
Well,
2017 and just ran the ball, Kyle Shanahan,
well,
you
it
would have had
reminds
more
me
rings.
it reminds me of an argument I used to have with college football fans, because college football fans used to argue me up and down that Oklahoma had this great home field advantage. And I was like, I don't know how great their home field advantage is. They're just always good. They're just always more talented than everybody else. And they play Texas and Dallas. So what would that home record look like if the Longhorns were coming there every other year? Or if they weren't playing Toledo out of conference or
Or
SMU out of
Mercer.
conference, you know what I mean? And they were actually bringing in some quality teams, like bring Alabama up there and beat
Yeah, well,
Alabama, and I'll
we're
give you
about
your
to
home
find
field
out.
props.
We're
You
about
know
to
what I mean?
find out
Yeah,
what
we're going to
this.
find out about Gaylord Memorial Stadium.
So, but like I said, I just think that the teams in the AFC South, two of them are rebuilding
Right.
essentially. One of them is
One is
a bad
ascending.
one is a bad interception away from rumors coming out of the locker room that this person is not happy, this person is not happy.
Yeah.
It just seems like a situation that uh could get bad in Tennessee. But risk reward, if it works out, then they, like I said, they play the smash mouth football game that they want to play. But I just think that just slow and steady wins the race. I got Jacksonville with just methodical movement of the football, good wide receiver core, good run game, inventive coach, young quarterback, ascending. They've gotten a lot. They like I said, they pay for free agents on defense. They drafted well. The exact opposite of what the Colts have done. The Colts haven't made like splash draft picks other than quarterback, but every quarterback pick looks like a splash draft pick when you're picking in the top 10. It all looks like
Right.
if they would have gotten Will Levis, it would have looked like a splash draft pick. Like, oh, because we heard that name for 4 to 5 weeks from February through April, and we saw the clips, we saw the good passes. Every once in a while, they would show the interceptions, but they showed the body and the throws and the combine throws and everything else.
Hmm.
So they look like a splash pick when you get Anthony Richardson or Will Levis or these picks. But Jacksonville actually been making the Josh Allen pick, the
Yeah.
guy out of Georgia, where everyone thought Aiden Hutchinson was going. He's like, nah, we're gonna get another
Trayvon
Georgia player,
Walker.
Trayvon
Yeah.
Walker out of Georgia. So
Yeah.
I guess I just think that they made those moves, um, and they made them 2 years in advance, and now they have their guy.
They're reaping the rewards for it.
They're not paying their guy yet. And Trevor Lawrence, I in the college football playoff game against Ohio State, just something about the way he was like just even the incomplete passes. It looked like he knew where his read was and he let it go. It wasn't he nothing. He didn't look overwhelmed, even though they were losing. He was battling because I think Ohio State had like a 21-point lead. They got to 21-point lead and it would just go 21. They get it to 14, and then Justin Fields will make a play, and then Trevor Lawrence will come back. And I think the game probably ended up around like 14 or 20-point victory for Ohio State. but it looked like every time Trevor Lawrence is on the field, he just knew exactly what he was doing with the ball, and I was like, "This is going to
And we
translate."
saw how
But
he
then they hired
dismantled,
Urban Meyer, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is not going
and
to
we
work out."
saw how he dismantled Alabama as well.
As a
And
freshman,
yeah, but I'm gonna pick Tennessee to win the division, going back to their roots. And I'm gonna pick the Colts to finish in last. I think the Texans are gonna be one of those sneaky teams that they only win like 5 games or so, but they're gonna put a scare into a lot of people, and I'm scared because as a dude that picked Buffalo to win the Super Bowl last year, I'm scared Stephon Diggs ain't gonna be there too much longer.
hey, people talk like they talk about Brian Dable and how he changed Josh Allen because out of Wyoming, he came into the league. I think his passing percentages last year at Wyoming
It's like
was his completion
59%.
59, 56 to 59, somewhere like in that the mid
It
50s,
was
high
real
50s
Anthony
range.
Richardson like.
And I get it. You might not have the top flight wide receivers out in Wyoming, but you are the big fish in little pond as a quarterback. Because we did you stay in Wyoming when we went to Colorado? Like, did you stay? Because I stayed in Laramie. Because when I was driving,
Yeah. I stayed
on
in
my way.
Laramie as well. Yeah.
So what I stayed at one of the little rest stop hotels, and I went to the Walmart,
Yeah, I
and I was
stayed I
driving
stayed at the
around.
joint with the iron skillet.
Yeah, I stayed at one. Like I think I stayed in that same block, and I remember like I pulled into the parking lot because I got there late. It was dark out, and I was like, I'm gonna go to Walmart, grab something or whatever. And I remember looking around, and I'm like, where is the buildings? Like, where's the campus? Like, where is stuff? I was sitting there thinking, like, this was actually what I was thinking. It was like, because we should watch it. They were in the Mountain West.
They're
Utah was
hidden
still
in
in the
the
Mountain
fog.
West, and I was like, how can you recruit? How do you recruit an athlete to come to this school who's not from Wyoming? Granted, Wyoming looks gorgeous. Like that whole Midwest Colorado. I had a friend and that was stationed in Montana. He loved it. So I get if you want to sell them on how good the place looks, it's easy. But I was looking for buildings, the campus, anything. I saw some people at Walmart that looked like college students, but I still didn't see any dorms. I didn't see any directions of dorms. Normally in the small college towns that I have like the emblem of the school on the street signs, I didn't see any of that. So it's like if you're playing out there, he was literally probably one of the biggest dudes playing sport in that state at 6'5", 225, 230, whatever he was when he was there. So then he gets to the league. Pass completion is about the same. Could throw it to a brick wall, but couldn't throw it to a wide receiver. They get Stephon Diggs and Brian Dable. All of a sudden, just his numbers go up. I don't know what Stephon Diggs like issue is. You can't win a Super Bowl every year, and sometimes you lose, and it's like, dog, you're not gonna win every year. So to throw like this hissy fit and like just pop want to be out is ridiculous. But find out per his Twitter, because Stephen A. Smith said, "Hey, dude wants out," and then Stephon Diggs went to his own Twitter and was like, "Let me squash this right now." That is not true. Matter of fact, I think I got it pulled up here.
Well, like he didn't help himself by the way, and I don't judge anybody because
The
I've
way
made
he was
some.
barking at him on the sideline.
No. I was just gonna bring up him bouncing after the Cincinnati game last year, the playoff game, where they said he just went straight to the locker room, grabbed his stuff, got up out of there, and then they were like, what happened, XYZ, and he was like, "What, y'all want me to be happy with losing?" Like, I'm not gonna judge him for that. You know what I'm saying? I've been in the middle of sports, obviously not professionally, that I might have reacted that same way, upset about a loss or disappointed, or and that it goes back to that thing, right? Putting the camera and the mic in somebody's face after a moment like that. Like, remember Cam Newton in the Super Bowl? That became a big thing, the way he reacted and all that. So like, I'll never be the one to sit up here and judge a dude and be like, he should have handled it like this.
Yeah,
Like
you
he's
can't say that. I've
yeah,
never
he's
had that level of emotion and then had to like take a shower and talk to someone about it.
right. You know what
Like
I
to
mean?
get that
So,
high, get that low, and then like have a rational conversation
but
in the
then
locker room before I even leave the building. Yeah.
So then when you put that to the side as exhibit A, you got Sean McDermott getting on TV talking about I'm concerned and I don't know why Stephon didn't come to practice today and XYZ. And then Josh Allen says, like, oh, that was blown out of proportion. Nobody blew it out of proportion. Nobody would have had a thought on it if your coach didn't say that he was concerned about it. So that's going to be exhibit B, because obviously there was some kind of miscommunication or misunderstanding of whatever that situation was. I'm sure they cleared it up, but in the moment, that was a miscommunication that I feel can't happen, especially on a team that has
The coach has to
aspirations
be
to win
better
Super
at the
Bowls.
PR.
Right.
Mike Tomlin had Antonio Brown going Facebook Live in the locker room, and he handled that situation better in his press conferences and every
Right. Like I think
conversation
Mike Tomlin
since.
would have, like, in that situation, Mike Tomlin would have lied. Like Mike Tomlin would have been like, "Yeah, I gave him the day off. So what?" And then everybody would have just been like, "All right," and we'd have just moved on. You know what I mean? Whereas McDermott's like, "Well, I'm concerned. Like why was he here?" And now we're overreacting. And
Yeah.
then Stephen A.
Your
comes
star
out
wide
with the
receiver and the head coach have a different relationship than the nickel corner and the head coach. Like
right.
that communication is different. The nickel corner, he's texting his position coach like, "Hey, I need a day," or
And if he
his
ain't,
his
he's cut
agent
or
his agent's calling the GM like, "Hey, Nicholson's not coming in," or whatever the case may be.
yeah. And if
But
not, he's on a Greyhound somewhere.
yeah, but the start your star wide receiver and your head coach, they have a different relationship. Like if Josh Allen went in that practice, somebody would have got an email, text message, a carrier pigeon, something to Sean McDermott, and he would have had a better answer at the podium. It might be a situation where, you know, you can recognize where you're playing a sport and your coach, albeit they are in that position to coach, might not be making the best decisions, the best play calls, best personnel calls, best game plan. Because if you're a wide receiver and you're like, I know I can beat this guy on these routes. If we run these our game plan should be, throwing these types of routes. Yes, I'm pretty sure wide receivers are going to want the ball thrown to them. But if he's like, hey, we can't shy away from what we do well because this other team is also good. Like it's one of those things where New England got away with it when they ran the ball like 40 something times in the win and only threw it 3 times because they just for some reason, I think it might have been a frustration piece, or maybe it was McDermott not being able to make in-game adjustments. Because that's something that I remember think about this with a couple of I've been watching like the youth football and recently, like my last 7 8 years when my son's playing football. And I'm sitting in the audience. I'm like, listen, I'm not a coach, but I can clearly see that number 65 can't block number 23. So maybe we
Mhm.
should help him out. Maybe we get a chip. I'm just watching from the stands. I'm like, you guys are on the same side of the field that I'm on, and you're seeing this guy below the play up. Where's the shift? Where's the adjustment? Where's the line shift? Where's the checks, whatever the case may be. So I think if you are a player and you see these different moments where your coach or your coaches or your position groups or the game plan doesn't seem to be matching up, because if you lose, you lose. Like,
Right.
Patrick
Right.
Mahomes, he took it on the chin. They blew the 21-3 lead to Cincinnati, and everyone came back, and then they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So long as you can recognize where you lost. I mean, even when the Falcons blew the lead in Super Bowl, they came back, still made a wild card, still won a playoff game on the road when they went out, beat the Rams, and had to come back and play Philly in the divisional round. So you can come back from a loss. It's just how many times does he want to lose? You can see how like his emotions when he does lose. So if Stephen A. Smith, like you say, he seems to be a reliable. He rarely
Yeah, I don't think
reports
he would just get out there
incorrect
and say it.
information,
Yeah, like, yeah. Maybe,
but
and I don't think he's the type that would, like, he cares about his reputation. You know what I mean? So I don't think he would be the type that somebody told him something and then it comes back later like, oh, Stephen A overreacted to what like, he doesn't strike me as that type. So like if Stephen A was the one person that had the LeBron to Miami thing. You know what I mean? Like he was the first person in the media that said that. Like, so he's
I
he's
remember when I heard it, I was like, That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and like Stephen A. told Michael Carter Williams that time, you don't want to make an enemy out of me. You know what I'm saying? Because he know everybody. Like he's connected. So like
But
somebody
with
somewhere is talking to him.
conversely, that level of connection would make me think that there might be a bit of an unchecked ego to the point where he will believe that no one would lie to me, so
Mhm.
this has to be true, so I'm going to say it. So it could be, it's the gift and the curse where you're so respected and you're so well connected that you feel like no one will put me in a position of where I'm going to report incorrect
Well,
information.
I think that's just
And
where
and
the
if Stephon
relationship
Diggs and
that's
Stephon
just where
Diggs
the
said it's
relationship
100%,
comes in. Like who
but
told me
that's
this?
but the person who told you, you might have felt like this person wouldn't lie to me, but it could have gone that way because if Stephon Diggs is saying, if the statement is from Stephen A. Smith, here we go, brother wants out. I'm just telling you what I know. That is a definitive statement. And then his retort is 100% not true, Diggs tweeted. There's no gray area. It's not like he
Right.
heard
But how many
something.
times have we heard these things and the athlete or coach or whoever denies it? Like we talk about Lincoln Riley all the time.
But
You
Lincoln
know,
Riley was at the podium,
he still
and
lied, like flat
I,
out lied in our
the Nick Sa-
faces.
the Nick Saban one was probably the best when he was at Miami, and they asked him if he was going to take the Alabama job, and he was going like he was real demonstrative about how I'm coaching Miami, blah blah blah, and then he was like, I'm out here.
Yeah.
First thing smoking in Tuscaloosa. So I get it. You don't want to give it away, but what's the point of lying about it? Like eventually it's going to come out. So it's like if you already lost your leverage piece, and that's the thing. Like if you want it out, you want it out in January. You want it out in February. Why are you waiting
Yeah.
until August? There's nowhere for you to
Well,
go.
he probably not waiting until August. He probably went in there and said something, and they said, "Look, with all due respect, go sit your ass down. You ain't
Nah,
going nowhere."
I think current GMs are, you got to be smarter than that because you Rob Parker says it. He's like, if a guy doesn't want to play for me, I you got to go because what am I going to get out of you?
That
Am I going to
sounds
get that
good in
extra?
theory until you
Am I
got
going to
like
get
like
that
James
extra
Harden
yard?
doesn't want to play for Philly. Like, you know what I mean? What you going to trade him for?
You just you got to move them. You got to
Where?
come. You got to come to. Look, everyone wants to use their leverage. The owners, the players, they want to give it up. I'm like, listen, check your ego at the door. This is a negotiation for what's going to be better. What was better for Brooklyn to have Kevin Durant and Kyrie for half the season and get some pieces back late, or make that move early and maybe you can get more.
Yeah, but for Philly to trade Harden, you have to have a trade partner, and you can't just accept any trade just because it's there.
He doesn't have a no
If
trade
that was
clause.
the case, Damian Lillard would be gone already.
Damian Lillard and his agent once again trying to create this illusion of leverage. Try to say we only wanted to go to Miami. I'm like, dog, you probably could have gone to Utah, probably for
Yeah, like Mr. Logical
Sexton and a
said.
couple of plays, and then you've gone back to somewhere and you could have really competed. Denver does not have a super team. They are not stacked. They are just solidly built as a
And they
team.
have continuity, yeah.
Continuity. You get it early. You get the because you can't demand to go to one place because that you lose your leverage to have a good team because your current team is going to get fleeced by the team you demand you go into.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. So like so if Harden so like to trade Harden, especially now after this latest like he's a liar fiasco and all that kind of stuff, like you're gonna get less than you were gonna get before that. Like so, so like if you're Daryl Murray, a team can't call you and be like,
They're
I'm
gonna
gonna give you
John
this,
Wall them.
this, and this, and then you just go, all right, we got to get him out of here. I'll take it because then you got
They're
You got
gonna
Embiid to
John
worry
Wall them.
about. You got
Nah,
Embiid to worry about.
they're just gonna John Wall Al Horford them.
They probably will. And but back
Don't
to
don't
but
come
back
to
to
the building.
Buffalo.
Don't come to the building. And that's
But
I think Stephon Diggs could potentially
but
get that
but
same treatment. It's like don't
but
come
but
to
the
the
reason
building.
that you asked the question of like I guess you asked why would he lie or like what does he get out of that? And I'm like, I don't know. You get the point of, you know, that they're not going to move you. One, because you've had conversations behind the scenes. Two, the season is about to start. So you're not necessarily trying to tank the season and be like the distraction or get the blame for, you know, Buffalo being off or whatever. You know what I'm saying? For three, you know, you just want to be the person to put it out there yourself or to publicly ask for a trade or whatever, versus having somebody like Stephen A just put it out there and beat you to the punch, I guess.
But where are you gonna go?
I don't know where
That's
you're
the
going to
thing.
go.
As two,
Washington
members
ain't
of.
going into the end zone with a play call like that. I'll tell
That's
you
a good
that.
play call. That's just a good tackle.
No,
That's
he
just
threw
a-
that ball. He was too far from the goal line. Like, he didn't run that route to where it needed to be.
he, he ran it right. Calm down. You're just a fan. That
Nah,
was a good
man.
route. It just was a
Nah.
better tackle.
I'm trying to end this preseason winning streak. But
Uh,
anyway,
yeah, they went for two.
Battle
Yeah,
of the
so like
Beltway.
as a player, where the leverage is for you in this trade is like all your leverage is around the draft. That's when everyone's optimism is at its highest level. That's when opportunities to move picks and players and people acclimating new teams. Guys, just teams just hired coaches off of the Super Bowl winning teams. So everyone is working in new pieces. You have your
They-
mandatory, like your mini camps and things like that. So you have all this time. You can't ask for a trade on the 21st of August or have this information come out on the 21st of August and expect to get any anything happening because there's nowhere for you to go.
No, I agree with that.
There's no benefit. So that's why I
I
don't
agree
think
with
he
that,
wants
but
to be out.
you can't control when Stephen A gets whatever information he gets. Like, you know what I mean? This might have been a conversation that Diggs brought up or had, like, I don't know, 2-3 months ago. Or even during the draft, he might have been like, yo, trade me for Derrick Henry or something. You know, but like, it was quiet, it was behind the scenes, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then we
You
fast
think
forward.
Stephen A will hold on to that for 3, 4, 5
No, I
months?
think Stephen A may not have been told yet. Like, because maybe it happened, it blew over, and then everybody was like, yo, we're moving forward, or whatever the case may be. And then something could have happened last week or yesterday or whatever, at practice or at camp.
So that's with that
There
being
could have been a
said,
conversation.
all of that speculation, it just seems like it seems that if you need that much speculation for Stephen A. Smith's statement to be true versus Stephon Diggs saying, "Nah,
No,
that's
I
not
don't.
true." I
I don't
would I
know.
buy into the player more than the reporter
I'm
in
just
that
saying
regard.
that I don't know when Stephen A got the information. Did somebody text him this morning and say, yo, Stephon wants out of here? You know, yes, I don't think somebody told Stephen A on 4th of July, hey, Stephon Diggs wants out of here. And then he just
And he
never
held
said
it for
nothing.
7 weeks.
Yeah, I
Yeah, that's
don't
what I'm
believe
saying.
that.
So
You know
whenever
what I
the
mean?
information came, it just
He
does.
probably said it.
But it doesn't make sense in the sense considering that Stephon Diggs said that it wasn't true. That's why I'm leaning more because a trade or an announcement or even like this desire to potentially be gone from your team for that information to come out now or for that conversation to be had with Stefan and his circle and it comes out now, it doesn't benefit him because there's no I don't know
Well, I don't
if you
think
can make a
Stephen A is
trade.
concerned about
No,
benefiting
no,
him.
that's what I'm saying. So
Like,
what I mean is like I don't think it's the reason I don't think it's true is because Steph like it's no benefit for Stefan for that information to come out. For him to even want to trade now is like you can't go anywhere. You've already been in everyone's been in camps. They've already played a couple preseason games. It's like where are you gonna go now before the season starts? It just I don't know. It just seems like a
nowhere.
situation
But
where
if Buffalo's sitting on, I don't know, 3-4, I don't
but
know. Maybe that's a conversation you have at that
but
time. I don't
Buffalo's not a
know.
bad team. Like I
They're
think
not a
the
bad team,
I don't think they would ever get to 3-4. That's what I'm saying.
when you have, how many teams have we seen before? No matter if it's football, basketball, whatever sport, we've seen teams that are talented, that are favorites, that are expected to be contenders, and then they just have something. You know what I mean? And their play suffers. We've seen that before.
We've seen it, but not with a healthy squad. We've seen it when players aren't available. Football, so it's a little bit where, as long as your quarterback's in place and your best skilled players are in place, you're good to go. But it's rare that a team like
We
Buffalo.
also we also seen a dude with a Mrs. Doubtfire suit too.
Oh, you talking about Harden?
So Stephon Diggs start pulling up on routes and stuff. You know, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation.
And that's what I mean is, as far as basketball, you can just sit them down. You can you can not play James Harden and still go 12-5 in your first 17 games because you have Embiid, and then you can just James Harden by committee with two or three guys. You got Maxi. I think Tobias Harris is still there.
Yeah, DeAndre Melton, Shake
DeAndre
Milton.
Melton.
Oh no, Shake left. No, Shake left. Okay.
So
Yeah.
you can replace with James Harden 17 points, 8 or 9 assists. You can replace that with a few other players and just work it through Embiid. You have that available to you. Football it's rare that you're going to be able to replace the production of a top level player at any
Right.
position.
Right.
You can't just
Especially
replace the
when
top
Buffalo
tackle with
doesn't
the
have a good
rookie.
run game.
They don't have a good run play calling game. They can run the ball well. They just don't call enough run. I thought last year they should have traded for Derrick Henry. Whatever they had to move to get Derrick Henry, I would have
Yeah, they should have
done
did it
that.
when he was available allegedly at the draft too, you know. But anyway, so where's Jonathan Taylor end up?
Jonathan Taylor, once again, it's like you have this Jerry Jones s kind of owner. He's already come out and said some asinine statement about
If I die
one
tonight
day if I
and
die tonight and Jonathan Taylor is not in the league. It's like, what rumors
basically
are
the
you
beat goes
speaking?
on.
He's not paid yet. The rumors of Miami, I don't know if it really makes sense because you have so much speed everywhere on the field. It just doesn't seem like it fits your speed back, your speedy wide receiver offensive strategy to have a big back. Also, I don't think it makes sense for Indy to give up Jonathan Taylor because you need the running back to keep the pressure off your rookie quarterback. Trade deadline, maybe somebody wants to make a move. Someone's doing better than they expected they were doing.
Yeah, maybe
Uh,
you're 1-6.
or yeah, either you start out terrible or somebody else is you start out just average. Like you're 2-4, 2-5, 2-6, something like that. You just know you're not really going far.
Mhm.
But the a team like let me think of someone who
Well,
might be
the first team
fringe
that came to
team.
mind for me was Minnesota. You know, just because Dalvin Cook's gone,
Team like
and
Minnesota. They're like, you
like
know what?
Alexander Madison, is he going to be your starter all season for you to depend on?
We're 5-2, and I think we're making moves. Let's add another offensive weapon, or you have maybe later in the season, Miami is making moves, and maybe they make the deal then. But I don't know about a preseason move.
A team just came to my mind.
Dallas,
I don't know
I
how
think
you're gonna. I don't know how you're gonna feel about this, but a team just came to my mind.
like somebody in the NFC South.
No, no. But why wouldn't the Rams try to make a move?
Because the Rams are going to go full rebuild. They are not adding pieces. They just got draft picks.
I know, but they still got Cooper Cup. They still got Stafford. You know, for at least another year or
You're more.
two. You
I
know,
think they're more likely to move Cooper Cup to a team that is like, just hypothetically,
a team that's on the brink.
Say
Oh,
Carolina,
okay.
say Carolina is like actually they're doing all right. They're like, you know what? Cooper Cup's available. Let's get this weapon in here for Bryce Young. Something like that. I mean, granted, I know it's far fetched, but it would have to be a move. I think I think a lot of teams are going to be buyers and sellers at the trade deadline because if we, like, as we've done all these previews, it's only a couple of teams, even with Kansas City being the quote unquote favorite. They're the favorite because their quarterback is just a few notches above his
Everybody else.
contemporaries.
Right.
It's not because their skill position players are. If if he had the skill position, like if he had Chicago's wide receiver core in Kansas City, along with Travis Kelsey, you were like, this is bananas. But Chicago has it, and it doesn't feel quite the same because
Right.
Justin Fields isn't on the level of Mahomes. So I think a lot of teams are going to be in that kind of position of where it's going to be. I'm gonna
Well,
say one team might start off 7-1, 6-1, but for the most part, you're gonna have a lot of teams in that 5-3 range after 8 games.
could a not so good team trade for him with
For
the
Jonathan Taylor,
yeah, somebody like say Tampa?
Tampa doesn't run the ball enough.
I know, but they might need to.
So that's the thing is like
I didn't
they
want to
don't.
say Arizona because that's just
Arizona's in a full rebuild.
right, right. So I
I
didn't
think
want to
they're
go
I think
there.
they're gonna bomb all their games, move Kyler Murray in the offseason, draft Caleb Williams. Sounds stupid. I don't know who's gonna take on Kyler Murray's contract, but somebody will. Somebody's gonna probably make that move. I doubt it'd be Dallas. I'm pretty sure they're gonna re-sign Dak, but someone's gonna need to make a move. Maybe Tampa Bay after this year, and they make the
Yeah,
move and get Kyler Murray to down to Florida. So like that's the thing. Like so you need a trade partner. New England just picked up Zeke, which he could potentially with him and whoever they have in their running back room give you the.
Kansas City.
Do they trade for running backs though? Because we
No, they don't. But I mean, but then again, like a running back like this isn't always out there every day either.
yeah, but I think if they made a trade, they would make the Cooper Cup trade
Okay,
because you can survive with Pacheco, McKinnon, Edwards Hilaire, and some guy you bring off the practice squad for 2 or 3 weeks because Mahomes gonna throw the ball 48 to 52 times.
Denver.
Denver, because they would be one of those teams that might be 5-3, 4-3 at
They
the
just feel like they
near
need
near
something.
the trade deadline. We need something to get us over the hump for these next 9 weeks. You think about the Deuce McAllister Reggie Bush combination that Sean Payton had back in the day. That put because people didn't think Reggie Bush was going to be a good back, but pairing him with Deuce McAllister, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that might have been the early stages of that running back by committee design. I don't think he was the. I don't think they were the
No,
first team
I
to
mean,
do it.
yeah, but yeah, it was around that time. You had
Was
like I think the first one that stands out to me is like Fred Taylor and Maurice
Maurice
Jones-Drew.
Jones-Drew, but it might have been so that's 06. Reggie was
Yeah.
06 after Katrina. Katrina was 05. They had one bag, they had the 1 year, right? So it was like
Mhm.
Reggie Bush because I was in Korea when the national championship game was played Texas USC. So that was January 06. So Reggie Bush got drafted that year. So him and Drew Brees, Deuce McAllister. So that was 06. I think the Fred Taylor, Maurice Jones-Drew was around that same time.
Is Washington too far gone to try to get Jonathan Taylor?
Their division's too good for the trade to be impactful this year, I think. Because I think the
Hmm.
three other teams in their division are
Hmm.
set. So I don't know. I don't know if he would move that unless, like I said, unless the Giants slip and Dallas, just struggles early because they have new offensive coordinator and maybe Dak is still throwing picks.
Yeah.
Maybe you make that move. But I
Um,
think they like their running back core with Gibson and Robinson. I mean, the dude took a bullet and came back in a couple of weeks. So
I know, but he's
I'm
like
not
that. He's like for my liking, he's 2-3 yards in a cloud of dust. But
a like. 3.5 yards per play is a first down. And no matter how you slice it, first down, second down, third down, 3.5 yards per play will give
Yeah,
you
but
a
the end
clear
zone
first
is
down.
like, 80
Hey,
yards away.
17 play drive.
You know what?
17 plays.
You know what I'm saying? What else on your mind about the NFL? What's going on around the league? What else?
Is Joe Burrow gonna get paid?
Yeah.
Because rumor has it the Cincinnati Bengals
I mean,
don't
they are
have
cheap.
they don't have an indoor facility. The top high school in the Cincinnati area, in Ohio area, has one. So think about that.
They
The
got
top high
Kentucky across the
school,
border.
the top high school in Ohio, like those top high school, have indoor facilities because you're by the Great Lakes. It gets cold.
Right.
You need one. Like you need an indoor. It doesn't even have to be that big. Remember the bubble at Hill?
Mm-hmm.
They could have something like that, just a little bit bigger. You could put it next to a facility where all it is just a field. You could put
Yeah,
all the
that's where I
training
used to
room and
cheat on my
everything else.
walk test at.
Yo,
You know
whew,
what I'm saying?
I
I
used to
used to
cut
get
those
behind the
corners.
tennis court and run, like get my heart rate up a little bit.
I remember
Secret
one
out there,
guy,
y'all.
his he failed the test because his little number came off and he ran back to get it and he failed it by a couple of seconds. They
Pass
use it
interference.
as they use it as a justification to let him retest. Yeah, but people used to say, "Oh, the bubble, man, it's like running at altitude." Because if people don't know, like Utah is like the base is like 4,900 feet, and the cutoff for at altitude waiver for your PT test was 5,000 feet. But there was no base between like 4,000, and there was like nobody else. It just was
Yeah.
Utah at 4,972, and then like base like Wyoming and Peterson in
Yeah,
Colorado.
Wyoming was
I'm
like
like,
6,200.
why wasn't the cutoff Hill? Because there
Right.
was nothing else. There was nothing else that was even close. So I was like, who made this? But yeah, so around the league,
Come on,
I'm
Jake
like
Fromm.
it.
There you go. Midfield, baby. Sorry, I
Yeah,
want
you're a
this
little bit
streak.
ahead of me.
No, I just want this streak. Like,
You
I'm
want the
from
streak to end so
Baltimore,
people stop talking about it.
but I'm not a Ravens fan. So, like, this is just my moment. Battle of the Beltway here. This might be the only thing I get to cheer about this year.
Okay, what did I hear before I
B.
came
John looked
on?
good the other day.
He does. Like I said, I bought Madden as my birthday gift to myself every year, and I have it set up to where Cordero's my starter, B. John's my third down back, Tyler Algier is my power back. So different formations, a third down back, like shotgun, the third down back is your primary back. So like when I go
Right.
through, so I'm like, if they keep it like this, it might work out. Um, but I heard something today. We don't talk about a lot of the popular teams that people talk about on TV today. But I was watching First Things First, Greg Jennings, Nick Wright, Kevin Wilds, Chris Broussard, and Jerry Jones talking to Dallas Super Bowl or bust season. And the question was, if the Cowboys make it to the NFC Championship game, would that be considered a disappointing season? Chris Broussard's argument was yes, because they have this expectation of getting to the Super Bowl, even though they're talent, like historically they haven't been there. But this perennial expectation of getting to the Super Bowl, an NFC Championship game would be considered a disappointment. Nick Wright said no because they haven't been there in 25,
Yeah,
26
that's my
years.
answer.
So it shouldn't be considered a disappointment if they made an NFC Championship game and
Well,
lost NFC Championship game.
you have to make the NFC Championship game to make the Super Bowl. So so for me, that's how I view it. Is it's not a disappointment because for one, the last time you made the NFC Championship game was when you won that Super Bowl 27 or 28 years ago. So at this point, you just got to get the monkey off the back to show that you can get that close. You know, because most of the pressure that comes with being the Cowboys is media. I mean, obviously Jerry puts the pressure out there, but the media runs with it. So it's not internal of like Dak Prescott walks in the locker room and says, "Guys, this is our year. Like, boom or bust." Like,
his quote was pretty ridiculous because they read half of it, and it was a lot like the Giannis quote. You know, we know we got the pieces. We want to play hard, so forth and so on. Like that was the first part that they read, and they talked for about a minute, and then someone was like, "Hey, you didn't read the second part of Jerry's quote, which was, yeah, but I think we do have the pieces to win a championship. We have the team, we got the defense, we got the quarterback." So like he said the beginning part of like this is going to be a successful season. We know we haven't been there in a while, yada 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 yada, all of that, blah blah blah, blase blase. And then he went to but yeah, we got everything we need to make it to the Super Bowl. So I do think that an NFC Championship not necessarily be a disappointment, but it will be viewed as a disappointment,
yes,
and
it
then
will be viewed
the
as a
subsequent
yeah.
moves by the subsequent feeling of the fans. I think the fans would be disappointed, and I think the team post-season decisions, off-season decisions will be representative of a team that
It,
feels disappointed. I
it
don't
will
think they'll run
be
it back.
it will be disappointed based off of who the topic is. But realistically, in a real world, it wouldn't be a disappointment. It's just that just like the Knicks, same thing. I always say, like, if the Knicks made the Eastern Conference Finals and lost,
But the
like,
Knicks never have the Knicks have
okay, if the Lakers get to the Western
childlike
Conference,
optimism. They
if
have
the
childlike optimism in New York, but there's
if
not
the
real
if the
expectation because
Lakers
they don't have the players.
if the Lakers get to the Western Conference Finals this year and lose again, I don't think it's a disappointment just because your best player is like a 38, about to be 39-year-old dude. So
Yeah,
for the fact that you
he
even
would be
made it there,
retired if he joined the Air Force the
yeah.
year he
So
joined the league. He'd be
yeah, so for
retired
the fact
eligible
that
right
you
now.
even made it there is an accomplishment within itself. You know what I mean? Like, but like obviously with all the attention, with all the media, with all the cameras and lights, it'll be considered to be a disappointed appointment because everybody's focused on you.
Like
You
you
know,
think the team would think? I think every player who doesn't win a championship, which is a lot, thousands of players don't win the championship every year in these now five major sports, how MLS. You don't win it all. So, oh, good. Oh, he fumble or
no,
drop?
like I think that I
So
mean,
I think it'll be viewed like I said, it'll be viewed as a disappointment. But who really has championship expectations in
the
the,
NFL
the
right now.
NFL right
So
now?
right now, I would say
Maybe four teams tops.
Philadelphia, Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and then you can
Why
add
Buffalo?
you can add San Francisco to that. Well, I say Buffalo just because they were literally on the doorstep. They went into Arrowhead, took the lead with 13 seconds to go. Mahomes did his magician thing. They got to overtime, and
But that wasn't the AFC Championship game.
no, it wasn't. But I think
So
that
how does Buffalo get championship
because I think
aspirations
because I think
and they
I th-
haven't been to an
because I
AFC
think
Championship game, even though
because
these last 3 years people have been trying to put them in the Super Bowl?
because I think that in sports there's teams and measuring sticks and matchups that you play. So, like, for example, you know what I mean? Like, if you're Penn State and you win the Big Ten, but you lost to Ohio State or Michigan, you just feel a certain way about it. Like, it still doesn't feel great because you still lost to one of those teams. Whereas Buffalo, Kansas City is the big bully on the block. You know what I mean? So you feel Toronto Raptors, right? LeBron is in our way. Buffalo probably feels like, yo, Kansas City is like, if we beat Kansas City, if they won that game, they might feel like they already got a Super Bowl.
Do you
So they
think
so
that's
they
why
came in.
they lost to Cincinnati because they have this
No, they lost to Cincinnati because Cincinnati was tougher than them. Cincinnati just came in there and punched them in the mouth in their own stadium, in
is
their
because
own
you think
weather.
they were looking forward to potentially playing Kansas City back at Arrowhead or at a
I think
neutral
I think
site or
that I
whatever it
think
was
that
supposed to be?
probably had a lot to do with it. I think they went into that game. I think they went into last season with the thought of Kansas City is the only team
that can knock us out.
that can challenge us. I think they went into the season with that. And I think a lot of people that picked Buffalo to win the Super Bowl went into the season with that thought because of the game at Arrowhead. I think a lot of people were like, and then during the regular season, they went into Arrowhead and won last year. And they defeated the Super Bowl champions by 3 touchdowns in their place on opening night. So I think that as a
they beat the brakes off the Rams last year. I was at the watching. I was watching like I'm just gambling my money away watching the Rams get torched. But that was a sign of things to come in regards to the Rams season.
So that's why I think that as a Buffalo fan or a player within that locker room, like I'm sure there's like the coach speak like we take all of our opponents seriously and we all that stuff. But human nature, like
they had a couple of games circled. They had some expectations kind of levied for their team.
You know what I mean?
So you're saying the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Bills, the Eagles,
San Francisco.
Those are your 5 championship or bust teams out of the 32.
Those are the teams that I look at and say
feel disappointed
one of
if
these
they don't
5
win it all.
Should win the Super Bowl. Like the Super Bowl champion should come from this pool of 5 teams. Dallas has the talent, to be in that conversation. You know what I mean? But I think that they have the glaring holes. So like when I look at San Francisco, they have a top 3 defense. They're loaded. Woohoo! You know what I'm saying? Sorry, y'all. About to end the streak.
You hadn't watched preseason.
This is the first full preseason game that I've probably watched in like the last 3 years. But I
can't believe they keep preseason games.
San Francisco has Debo, Ayuk, Kittle. So like you look at it like, can Brock Purdy just be serviceable? And San Francisco should be in this conversation. Philly, we saw them dominate. They don't play on turf, or else we would call them the new greatest show on turf. And we saw them get to the Super Bowl and get taken out by the field monster. You know what I mean? So Philly literally feels like if we played in any other stadium, we raised the trophy. They're wrong, but that's how they feel.
Yeah, they were up 10 points. So they were up 10 points in that Super Bowl. And
that's how they feel,
get it,
though.
But you have the Super Bowl hangover. I just feel
now Cincinnati, hold on, one more thing. Cincinnati knows they've done it. They went into Arrowhead in the playoffs and walked away with a win, erased the 18-point deficit, got to the Super Bowl and was literally a play away.
That was a bad holding call. It would have been 4th and goal from the 9 for the Rams, but the Rams scoring that touchdown, I won $750 in Super Bowl squares.
There you go.
So it was bittersweet. I picked the Bengals.
But you talk about the 4th down play all the time. The 4th down play, the last play of the game, for all intents and purposes. So Cincinnati,
if they doubled Aaron Donald, Jamar Chase walks into the end zone.
And see, and that's
on
the thing, right?
And Joe Burrow's rolling to the right, like that.
So if you're Cincinnati, you walk into the season and you say, "Screw Kansas City. We went into Arrowhead and won." Like every year, like whenever I see Kansas City, it's on sight. I ain't scared of them.
Does Joe Burrow's, leg, knee down injury bother you? Like these non-contact injuries, the calf, the knee. I'm not sure how we grade offensive lines, and maybe that's something that once ESPN hires us, we'll get a staff of people that kind of teaches this information.
Well, for right now, I just look up Pro Football Focus and I go off what they say.
So it's like, because I'm pretty sure some of those offensive lines that Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and Drew Brees were behind, I don't know how top rated they were, or the situation of those guys just didn't get sacked. So what's your knock?
Well, that's what I brought up Tannehill earlier when we were talking about the division. Like the offensive line is my big question about Tennessee. But I trust that he'll get the ball out of there. He'll make a decision on whether he needs to scramble or not. he'll throw the ball away, whereas Malik Willis will still try to make a play. Levis will try to do the Brett Favre thing. So
Go
that's why
through
I
a
feel a
brick
little bit
wall.
right. So like with Joe Burrow, like I just feel like it's concerning. Like luckily this one doesn't seem to be as bad as the first one, because the first one he was out for the whole season. So this one, but it does concern me. Like because
Non-contact football injuries is always something that I've heard pundits say for years. Like they are they are normally they are
you see that on the screen. You see that
I see the
first
replay of the
preseason
interception.
loss since September 3rd, 2015, against the
Yes,
Falcons.
of course, ATL shotty. Like non-contact injuries are the worst. But he was wearing like a leg sleeve
Uh huh.
in that practice. So it was like, was he having this issue before? Why was he out there? And also, hindsight's 2020 and
Right.
perfectly
Right.
clear. Uh, I just feel like because he is somewhat as I won't say as important, but the skill position core in Cincinnati, yes, they have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but it's not that much different than Mahomes and Kelsey as far as like one of these guys, one guy's missing and you're like kind of behind the eight ball. Like
Right.
you're not as dynamic as you appear to be on the Madden roster if one of these guys isn't there.
Right.
I'm not sure about their running game. I don't know if they're like committed to the run or is everyone so committed to throwing 45 and 50 passes a game because you're about to pay guys 265, $267 million
Well,
and you
they
want to
do
throw the ball
run
a lot.
Mixon. Towards the end of last season, he just wasn't as good as he was the previous year. But I don't think it's because Cincinnati doesn't trust the run game or anything. Like they run the ball, and I think that's part of what makes them so lethal is that you have to respect their run game. Whereas with Mahomes, Kansas City can run the ball.
They
They
surprise you
just
with it.
don't. They just don't do it a lot, so it catches you off guard. And Kansas City is like, let's play basketball on the field. Like I'm gonna have a fast dude come from this angle. We're gonna run the figure eight with everybody that runs a 4-4 or less. And
And
you got to
Patrick
make a
Mahomes gonna
decision.
throw a 7 yard out route.
Yeah, and you
All
got
this
to
stuff's gonna
guess.
be going on. He was like,
You got to guess where the ball is going to go,
or
and
he's
it's
gonna
going to
check
take
it
you
down. Yeah, he's gonna check it down to McKinnon or
right,
Pacheco or
and it's
something
going to
like
take
that.
you a half a second to do that, and that's just all the window that he needs. Whereas with Buffalo, they would be the least out of these five teams that I mentioned that should feel that way because they're the one team that hasn't done it yet. Philly went to the Super Bowl last year. San Francisco went to the NFC Championship game 2 years ago and went to the Super Bowl prior to that. Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl. Kansas City's obviously won these Super
San
Bowls.
Francisco was an NFC Championship game this past season too. Yeah,
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, there you go.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying. So Buffalo is the one out of the five that I mentioned that probably should have the least bit of confidence just because they haven't accomplished anything per se yet. But I truly believe that they thought going into the last year that Kansas City, we fear no team but Kansas City. You know what I mean? And then Cincinnati came out there, punched them in the mouth. They were like, yo, we got Cincinnati in our place in the snow. This is Buffalo Bill football. And everybody else was like, hey, yo, y'all can't run the ball though.
It snows in Ohio too. It's like literally on the other side of the lake.
Right, right. But it's like,
It's not like
yo,
you got a team from Southern California to come
but
in and play in the snow. Like it gets
but
cold
but
as shit in
basically,
Ohio as well.
yeah, but basically it was like Cincinnati came in there, punched them in the mouth, as a team that had been in these type of playoff games before and won these type of playoff games. You know what I mean? Buffalo's been in it, but they lost it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I think they came in with that. And you remember, you called me up, like I said it, talking about like, yo, well, why are people putting Josh Allen over Mahomes? And I was like, I ain't saying
Yo,
like
it
you know
was it was it was ki- it was killing me because, like I said, I'm a logical thinker. I'm a logical speaker as best as I can. It just didn't make any sense to me and we can have this argument. Like, and I said, I sometimes I get to the point where like I badger you for facts to support your argument,
Right,
and
right,
I come off as condescending because I know a lot of times in those I get to that point when I know you can't give me any facts. So we'll
right,
go back and forth for 5 or 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, you're getting me feelings. I'm like, my catchphrase, don't bring feelings to a facts fight. And I'll badge you. And I know it's obnoxious, but I do it because I want to prove a point. Like, listen, don't waste my time with your feelings on stuff that you can support with
right.
facts. And my argument for Mahomes and all these other, and mainly it was like, the criticism of Mahomes is like the blind resume. What would you want your quarterback of your team, your favorite team? Would you take Mahomes' first now 6 seasons and say, if you're a Cowboys fan, if that was Dak Prescott's 6 year run or 5 year run at this point, because he had the 5 AFC championship games in a row, and then
Hmm.
he sat as a rookie. So that 5 year stretch, two Super Bowl MVPs, two league MVPs. No, matter of fact, this is before the second MVP. This was the first MVP, the Super Bowl MVP, the Super Bowl loss to Tampa Bay, and then the fourth AFC championship game. So when people were picking and putting Allen and all these other guys ahead of him, I'm like, what are you looking at that says Mahomes is going to fall off? Because the only reason he wasn't getting MVP consideration in those 2 years that Aaron Rodgers won is because they were comparing Mahomes' MVP season to his other seasons. Like, you don't throw 50 touchdowns every year. Like, that's not like a thing that happens. So people are like, oh, he fell off. Like, he threw 39 touchdowns and 38 touchdowns and like 7 picks. He led the league in yards. I mean, he did everything he was supposed to do, except that they ran the ball a little bit more because it's like, I can't keep throwing it because in the Super Bowl, we didn't run it into the cover two. We just kept throwing it, and I got nothing out of it. So
Yeah,
for 2 years,
Patrick Mahomes won the division, and they was like, "But you ain't make another Illmatic."
so it just like so. That's my argument every time. Is like, listen, just tell me that you know you would you wouldn't take that for your favorite quarterback. Because Skip Bayless was notorious for his criticism. It's like you love Dak Prescott. His resume is nowhere near as definitive as Patrick Mahomes, but yet you'll compare him to Tom Brady who played for 20 years and be like, he's not there. It's like, well, he's only played for five.
Mhm.
So he's
And
played for 5 years and it's like, well, he won't catch.
that's Dallas's
Not many
problem.
people will.
Well, that's Dallas's problem. They're talented, and Dak is the ultimate overachiever. But the problem with overachieving at times when it comes to sports is that you run into your match and the truth comes out. And we see that you were an overachiever and you
Their
got
match
here.
their matches that their offensive coordinator was vanilla, very unseasoned chicken kind of a play caller. They had talent. They had CD Lamb, Gallup, Pollard, Dalton Schultz, Zeke, Dak. They had all these bodies on offense, but nothing was creative
They
about it.
weren't exciting.
Yeah, it just was like
They weren't fast.
deep
Like they weren't.
deep routes, post routes, crossing routes, dig routes.
But the point being is that like when Dak has to make, and I don't want to do the thing, but when Dak has to make the
Like,
play, sometimes there's a lot to be desired. With his decision making, with just the team in general, like the whole
some of
team.
those interceptions hit dudes right in their
No,
chest.
they did. They did. You know what I mean? Like, but like as Stephen A says, accident waiting to happen. Like Dallas just has these moments, and I don't know if it's mental and psychological where they feel that outside pressure that we're talking about. So like they get tight, or as Bomani Jones would say, they get the lemon pepper booty. The lemon booty. Just start dripping out just a little
Puckering up.
bit. Yeah, like I don't know if that's a true thing where Dallas more than most teams just feel these moments of we got this right because like there's some things you can't explain, like the Tony Romo hold on the extra point. You can't explain that. You know,
Because
when
you
Dak
don't think
Dak
about it. You just
Dak
you
not
get like
giving
as a player, you just catch that ball. You've done it.
muscle memory.
You've done it 95 times a week in practice or whatever the case. However many kicks the kicker kicks throughout the week, you've done it all year long.
Or like when or
Ex-
Dak, like we talked about it earlier, Dak not giving the ball to the ump, you know,
because you're
against San
just
Francisco.
because you call a draw play. I thought it was a good play call if they had 27 seconds and
Yeah,
the ball
yeah,
was snapped.
they needed, or even if they just had 5 more seconds than they had,
Yeah,
like
they needed a little bit more time for that play to work.
right. It was a good call. I agree, but you know what I mean. Ill got me talking nice about them, but
Yeah.
but yeah, if he would have gave
They're a good
the
team.
ball,
They went 24-10 the last 2 years.
okay, we get it, enough.
Yeah.
Like you know,
I'll take that.
but if
I'm
he,
14 and I'm 14 and 20 over here just suffering.
but if he gave the ball to the ump, they would have got another play. Still not likely that they would have won the game, but that's just like one of those moments of like, this is Dallas. You know what I mean? Or you know, the interception last year against San Francisco. Like, there's just all these
The
moments.
Aaron Rodgers rollout pass to the tight end, like
Mason Crosby,
that
you know,
that throw is not supposed to be completed.
right?
Like it just like it's a play that shouldn't be possible.
And I don't think
And this
Jared Cook
one
did
dude
anything since.
made it happen. And then Aaron Rodgers comes out the next week against Atlanta and puts up a complete dud. He made probably the throw of the year
The throw of ever, like
a week before, rolling to his left, into the game, trying to get his team in field goal position to a tight end on a scramble, and then to beat Dallas. And it looks just like Dallas is never going to get over the hump. And then that same guy comes out the following week and just lays an egg. And Dallas is like, yeah, we would have had this NFC Championship game at home because Atlanta would have had to go to Jerry World.
you'll see, even in that same game, and I can't remember. I want to say Dallas jumped on Green Bay in that game,
They were up
and like the Packers had to come back.
11 or 13 or 10 or 13, something like they were up. They were up and they were
Yeah,
moving the
and you could
ball
even argue,
effectively.
and you could still even argue, even with Aaron Rodgers making that throw, you can argue that Dak outplayed him in that game. You know,
Absolutely.
so that's what I'm saying. So like you know,
I
like
wanted Dallas to win, but then as a Falcons fan, I was like, you know what? I'd rather have NFC Championship because I was big on like I really liked Dak. I thought Dak was getting a lot more heat because that was only his second year, I believe.
something like
No,
that.
no, it might have been his rookie year. That was 2016, 2017. So it might have been his rookie year.
Yeah, it
And I
might have
just
been.
liked him. I just liked him. I thought he was dope. I liked the story. Um,
But this is like I don't
but I
know.
was glad to have the NFC Championship game in Atlanta.
But this was Dak in college too. You know, like play against Ole Miss. You know, look like a first or second round pick. You line him up against Bama. You know, like you like, hey, is this his first time touching a football? And I mean, obviously that's not fair because we're talking about Alabama. But I'm just making a point. Like you know, just like Andrew Luck, it was the same. Like some people just have these matchups like that. You know, Andrew
Yeah,
Luck in college looked like Peyton Manning reincarnated
but couldn't win.
until you put Oregon on the other side of the field,
And it
and it
was
was
like
pick
nothing you could
six
do about it.
central. It was pick six central. Jamarcus Russell, that was my big knock on him. Everybody talked about his arm, and I told everybody, I said, but whenever he plays a team with equal or better talent, it don't look like that. You know, there was a game against Tennessee that came to my mind that I would always, you know, talk about and bring up. Like, so like there was just certain things. So like Dallas has to be honest of what Dak is. Dak is a good quarterback. Dak is not elite. Dak is not, I don't know if I want to call him top 10, but like, you know what I mean? But like he's not that echelon of quarterback.
He's
Like we
he's a he's an upper tier quarterback, but not top tier.
yeah,
Top
like
tier is one guy's top tier. Then you
well,
got a
it's
couple of
like I
guys
tell
on two,
people,
and a few guys on 3. He's in that range.
Well, it's like I tell people about the Hall of Fame.
8 to 11.
It's like when you talk about the Hall of Fame, and me and Black Adam used to always get into this argument, because I used to say Peyton Manning, John Elway, Phillip Rivers. One of these is not like the other, when it comes to Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? So like when I go and obviously last year was a bad season, but when I'm like Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, Dak, one of these is not like the other, and that's not an insult. Like he's just not as good as they are, which doesn't make him bad. They're just great.
And he's one of 32 guys that have that job in the world,
right? And that's the point that I try to tell people about these Hall of Fames, because people will retort back and say, "Well, of course, Phillip Rivers or whoever doesn't stand out if you're comparing him to Peyton Manning and this." And I'm like, "But this is the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you should get compared.
You should be compared to who's in the Hall of Fame."
People from your era that are in the Hall of Fame,
right?
And exact people you compare to. So
and
the guys in the league right now should be the guys that gets compared to. And if he's 11 or 12, that's fine. It's like, but I've seen a handful of top 10 rankings. I don't know if they're projected rankings,
right,
going into this season, or are they based off of last season,
last year. Yeah,
but Dak is ahead of a lot of guys. They got Dak around like 7. 6, 7, 8.
And this is why Dallas ends up in these situations, because
Trevor Lawrence is like 9 or 10. Daniel Dimes wasn't in that range. I think Jalen Hurts. I think everyone has Jalen Hurts in that too.
People get up for them, and it's stuff like this. You know what I mean? Like not bulletin board material, but you know what I mean. But people get tired of hearing about Dallas and turning on so like the Yankees, like the teams in your league. You just get up for certain teams because they are that team. And so like when I look at this, me and White Adam, used to have this conversation about Russell Wilson, where like he thought Russell Wilson was just like going to light the league on fire and do all these things. And I'm not saying that he wasn't a very good quarterback, but but it was the same thing to me, where I was like, he has talent, he has heart. He's the little engine that could, but he ain't like that. Like, he ain't like Tom Brady. He ain't like Mahomes. He ain't like Burrow. He ain't like, I don't want to be disrespectful, but he ain't even necessarily the talent that Herbert has, in some ways. So, like, it's just one of those things.
Herbert's one of those guys that, people want to be, they want him to be great, but
right.
He's just really good. He's a good quarterback.
And he's a really good quarterback. Like, and he's still young.
There's great, and then there's really good, and then there's good.
And he's still young. He may get to that point. He may get to that point. We just have to let him. Instead of, trying to, like, because that's the thing, right? In the sports world or whatever, everybody's always trying to find the next. Like, you can't appreciate.
Everyone wants to say. They don't really want to look for it. They just want to say who's next. That way,
everybody wants to be first to the party.
Their short saying like, "Oh, I said I called this 3 years ago when they drafted Tua over Herbert."
Yeah, just like whoever said Imani Bates was the best high school prospect since LeBron knew he had little arms. You know what I mean? Like, like they knew it. They knew he couldn't shoot that good. Like, you know what I mean? But it was just the thing to say. Just like now, Scoot. I like Scoot, from what I've seen so far. I like his attitude and everything. But everybody's already comparing him to Ja Morant. So then when he comes out here, hypothetically, and averages 12 and 6 on like 37% shooting, and then we point that out, we're going to be called haters. And it's like, well, no, y'all put that expectation on him.
Yeah. So it's all about manage expectations, and honestly, like that's the thing, is like qualify your expectations with if I, as a fan of the Falcons, I think they could win 10 games because controlling the ball, but I have to be hopeful that Ritter and the passing game expand a little bit. But if it doesn't, then I have to be realistic and expect another 7 and 10 year, because they've been back to back 7 to 10 years. 14 and 20 is 2 years as a head coach in Atlanta. So they
Right.
back-to-back subpar, mediocre seasons, whatever adjective you want to apply to it. But if they're passing the ball and they're spreading it out 4 wide, 5 wide, getting the backs involved, so forth and so on, getting Scotty Miller involved from the slot as a speed guy, then I'm like, okay, cool. My hopes of 10 wins are still intact. But if they are still running that same stuff they've been running the last couple of years, I'm like, okay, my realistic tone will set in. It was like, okay, well, we're gonna go 7-10.
You're like, shit, we're gonna lose to Washington again.
Yeah, why? I don't know why they threw the ball inside the 10-yard line in the rain with the clock running. I was just like, why are you throwing the ball? If they could have ran it 2 more times, and it would have been no time on the clock.
Yes.
Another thing, I'm just sitting on my couch, just wondering, like, yo, why am I here and not on the sideline with a hoodie on? Call me, please, because I got to be doing better than him.
Right.
Yo,
but on that note, ladies and gentlemen,
got me all riled up.
you know what I'm saying? You got to take the digs when you could get them. You know what I'm saying? Out here ending 8-year preseason winning streaks. You know what I mean? So, like, hey, 2-5.
Writing that down.
2-5. He is Mr. Logical, the one and only. We are Sports Reports is ordered. We will be back on Thursday with some college football talk. We're going to give you our Power 5 winners. I might talk Mr. Logical into talking about a little bit of G5 too. You know what I'm saying? We're going to give you our playoff picks, and then we'll go from there. Peace.
Holla.